It's not easy to tell the difference between low trust in God and hypervigilance. But when we mistake hypervigilance for a lack of trust in God, we end up further wounding what's already hurting. So, in today's video, I'm going to break down why people get them confused, how to recognize the difference for both yourself and others, and 3 ways that you can move from hypervigilance towards watchfulness. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel where we discuss where faith and neuroscience meet. My name is Ashley, a mental health expert on a mission to support Christians in healing their anxiety using Christ-centered neuroscience without the typical just pray more advice. First, I want to mention that there is such a thing as adaptive vigilance or healthy paranoia. In these scenarios, environments are scanned for immediate fear or threats, and that's usually addressed by the amygdala. I have made videos that have spoken about the protective benefits of the anxiety that we experience. The influx or overfunctioning of anxiety causes problems for people. But in your basic safety response, your thinking brain is going to do a safety check. It's going to ask if this is harmful. And if you're not in harm's way, then your body is just going to refocus on what you were previously doing. So it turns on when it's needed and it turns off when it's safe, kind of like a smoke detector. Now imagine if you had a smoke detector that would never turn off once the safety is restored. That's hypervigilance. It isn't rebellion against God. It is the residue of what someone has survived. Like having 50 browser tabs open all the time and being scared to close any of them. You essentially become conditioned to expect danger. Oftentimes, this comes from trauma or ongoing negative experiences. And so basically, your brain is just trying to protect you by scanning for danger and preparing for it ahead. Now, when you look at hypervigilance in its context for most people, it's going to make sense. All of us in some way have learned that the world is unpredictable or unsafe. And we are also in this imperfect world with sin and clear dangers. So it is protective at certain points, but over time, it is no longer protective or helpful anymore. So how do you know that you're experiencing hypervigilance? Common signs are constant body tension, trouble relaxing even in safe, comfortable places, feeling as if you need to monitor everything, mental fatigue, quick depletion of energy, constant overthinking, confusion between genuine and ambiguous danger, frequent high alertness, pressure to get things right all the time, and burnout without any obvious cause. You're going to find yourself doing a lot of mapping. And mapping stands for monitoring, anticipating, and preparing. So you're going to do those in repetition, like a natural order, and you're going to find yourself doing them unconsciously without even realizing it. Why is hypervigilance confused with lack of trust in God? Signs of hypervigilance often show up as constant worrying, trying to control situations to prevent certain outcomes, struggling to let go, self-reliance, worst case scenario thinking, and anticipatory anxiety. And because they show up in this way, most Christians would interpret this as you're not trusting God enough, you're not surrendering properly, or you're not having enough faith. This is particularly true when Christians have an image of God as a strict or demanding authoritarian. This also happens when people view the Christian walk as performance-based, or they treat salvation and God's goodness as something we earn. So anytime you make this merit-based, this is going to create guilt and shaming, and ultimately leads to the ideas that spiritual inadequacy or failure are the explanations for any of our difficulties. And that's just not true. This is where that extra wounding comes from. You might be asking yourself, how do they differ? Well, trust is about where you place your belief. So lack of trust is doubt or an absence of belief in God's character, capability, and his word. Hypervigilance, on the other hand, is not a belief problem. It's a nervous system problem. And we actually have this extended amygdala, also called BNST. It helps process uncertainty and sustained threats. And so we know that when people experience hypervigilance, the levels of this is elevated and higher than the average person. And so danger is overestimated and a person really struggles to recognize safety. It even begins to override their thinking brain, flooding them with fear. fear extinction becomes a lot harder to do. So even if you say a belief to the nervous system, it is not going to respond to that just alone. There's going to have to be additional somatic work and safety repair. Now, the other thing too is that trust issues cause people to withdraw from God, and lack of trust erodes relationships and connections with God, which is an important foundation of the Christian walk. Hypervigilance causes overactivity, where micromanaging and preparedness through control begins to equal safety. Two things can be true at the same time. Someone can be hypervigilant and trust God. Now let's get into 3 ways to move from hypervigilance towards watchfulness. Because hypervigilance driven control feels safe until it becomes a prison, even though it is not rebellion. It can be very paralyzing and immobilizing, but we don't want you to go to the other extreme because God tells us that watchfulness is necessary. There are real dangers around us. So we want you to be able to find a moderate space where you're able to discern tempting situations, stay engaged in your relationship with God, and prepare yourself for things that are going to happen. There's a couple of verses that talk about watchfulness, and I've listed them here. And you'll notice that they all talk about be alert, be on guard, stand firm, be courageous, really speaking to the spiritual alertness that we also need to have as believers and followers of Christ. We just have to help get your nervous system back in a space of being able to know what safety is without over controlling, micromanaging, constantly problem solving. The brain needs to learn that there are other ways that you can experience safety. You don't have to stay on high alert to stay spiritually aware. But again, we don't want you to go to an extreme of having no vigilance. That's not the goal. So number 1, you want to identify the wound that caused the hypervigilance. So you're going to ask yourself a few questions. What have you survived that taught you not to trust safety? And the second question is, what world did my nervous system wire for? These are really important because in order to do something with the hypervigilance, you need to know what it's rooted in. Like I said, it was protective for you at one point and now it's not. So you need to know, how did my brain develop this and why did it develop this? Number 2, give yourself reality checks and ask, is this God's work or is this my assignment? This one is so powerful. And I will actually ask myself, is there anything I can do? And the other thing that I do is say, I'm taking my hands out of it. This is not mine. I can't do anything about this. I don't have control here. I'm taking my hands off of it. Number 3, use reframing to challenge catastrophizing and overgeneralization. So you want to ask yourself things like, is there any other explanations beside me being in danger or under attack? Is this really about me? And when you ask yourself these questions and you engage in cognitive reframing, it actually decreases amygdala activity and allows your thinking brain to be able to help you through that. Now, I want you to remember this. God isn't asking your nervous system to pretend it feels safe. He is inviting your whole person, your mind, your body, and spirit into healing. And my hope is that this channel helps you experience that reality. If it does, subscribe and share this message so more people can replace shame with understanding and fear with hope. Healing doesn't happen when we shame the nervous system. It happens when we invite it into the safety God designed it to experience. That's exactly why I've created a 3-month experience designed to help Christians heal anxiety by integrating neuroscience with biblical truth so that you can move from fear-driven survival to spirit-led living. You'll also get an opportunity to learn how to renew your mind without shame and build a faith that's both grounded in truth and transformation. There are specific strategies that I have learned to use on a regular to support my nervous system. And so when you come into this experience, you'll be able to not only learn, but practice them and have feedback and accountability during that process. If you're interested, you can learn more through the link below in the comments and description section. And if you don't want to stop here, check out this next video. I promise you, it will completely shift your perspective on worry and even the times where we don't realize we're doing it because we think that we're being productive. If you experience hypervigilance, this video is going to be really helpful because worrying often comes alongside it. And so if you can address these two, you can make some major strides in your anxiety healing and to be able to give your brain a break, because when you are worrying and constantly scanning for danger, it takes up so much of your mental energy and it is very physically exhausting and draining. So we want you to be able to get some of your energy back and to be able to channel that into other parts of your life. So make sure you go ahead and watch that. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I want to leave you with a reminder that you are covered, seen, and loved by the Creator of all. See you next time.